Show and Tell Boston After Dark. I'm here with my co-host.
Most genuine, most generous.
And our special guest.
Nieisha Deed.
And for those who don't know, could you please explain a little bit about us and what you do?
About us or about me?
Sorry, about you. About you.
I don't know about us, but I know about me. So my name's Nieisha Deed. I'm from Roxbury, and I'm the founder of a mental health organization called Purespark. And Purespark helps Black people along on their wellness journey. So if you check out our website, we have a wellness directory that really looks at both Western and Eastern philosophies of wellness, you know, therapy, yoga, acupuncture. We list out Black wellness events that are going on in the city. Some are free, some are paid, some are virtual, some are in person. And we also have crisis helplines for people who are in crisis and need support.
Oh, nice.
ASAP.
And, well, that's actually really nice. I didn't know you guys acupuncture. You guys have a calendar?
Say that one more time.
A calendar you guys have?
So we have an events calendar, so that's a separate thing listed on the website, and it lists out like all of our events and then like our partner events, like you know, whatever events that are going on, because we really want it to be like a one-stop shop, so that if you're Black and you want culturally competent healing, you know, you just go to our website and you can find a wellness provider and or a wellness event and or even a crisis intervention helpline. It's called Black Line, that's focused just on Black people and talking about, you know, what they're going through.
And can I ask you, how did you get into this line of work? Like, what is your story exactly that made you come to this like line of work?
Yeah. You can ask me. I mean, I'm here to tell my story. You can ask me anything for the most part. Yeah, ask me anything. But yeah, so I graduated from Howard University 2005, and I was all about making money, which most people are, right? Especially if you live in the U.S., you got to make money in order to live, to survive, right? So I said to myself, well, if I'm going to make money, I'm going to study money pretty much. And I studied accounting. And I went into the field, and the first day of my internship, I was like, nah, I'm going to be behind a computer all day long, looking at numbers and spreadsheets all day, like hardly talking to people. Like, as you saw earlier, before we started rolling, like I'm a talkative, friendly person. So can you imagine me behind a computer all day just checking numbers all day long? Right? No. But then I thought, okay, well, I invested money into studying this profession. Like, you know, what else am I going to do? So I just forced myself into it. And 15 years later, you know, all these raises and bonuses, I'm making money, I paid off my student loans, I'm about to buy a house, and I'm like, something doesn't feel right.
Even though you should be happy.
I should be, by all measures, happy, right? I have a great job, you know, I have money in the bank, I'm taking vacations every year, but I'm not happy. I don't like my life. So I don't like my life turned into, I don't want to be here, turned into suicidal ideations, turned into a suicide attempt. And that was in December of 2017. And after healing through that, I realized, all right, accounting's not it, but what is it, you know? And I thought about my family members that I lost to suicide, and I thought about how I was able to recover. I was like, well, maybe I can use my story and my lived experience in order to like help heal my community. And that's kind of where Purespark was born, or how Purespark was born.
And first it started out as a kind of like a social media, like you're posting things.
Yeah.
And then how did it turn into like now you have all these things to offer? How did that transition happen?
Right. Well, kind of organically. I think, you know, initially it was just me telling my story, and then it was kind of the feedback that I got from people online on Facebook after sharing my story. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to start just educating folks and sending out information about, you know, what is depression? What is anxiety? What does it look like? What does it feel like? Because instead of calling ourselves lazy, let's call a spade a spade. You're not lazy. Yeah. You're dealing with a chemical imbalance that's causing you, like, you're not able to get out of bed. And that's not something that you can just will away. You know what I'm saying? That's heavy stuff. It really affects you physically. So after kind of, I guess, doing that online, I said, well, this doesn't feel like I'm doing enough. I'm not really reaching and touching people. I want to provide more of a service. And then I thought about my lived experience. I thought again about how when I went to my therapist, she asked me, she was like, have you tried yoga? You know, I think you should try yoga. And I was like, okay, so just stretching and doing it, like, how's that gonna help me mentally?
How does that help you?
Like, exactly.
Yeah,
that's what I was asking. I was like, I don't get it. So fast forward, I was like, okay, this is what I wanted to provide to my community. I want to provide them with kind of like a guide on like how you can heal and all the different options, because we're all different. Western medicine makes us think that like, okay, you take this one pill, you take that pill, you take that pill, you take that pill. Everybody takes that pill and you're healed. But that's not how healing works. Like, we're all different and unique beings with different and unique gifts, with different and unique bodies. And so we all need something different, and only you know what it is, right? So I want to offer that to people. But how yoga, excuse me, how yoga helps with, or helped me on my healing journey, I think a lot of times in America, we look at things from just like the physical perspective and like, oh, I want to lose weight, or I want to get snatched, and, you know, whatever. I want to be snatched, you know what I mean? And I get it, you know, people want to be loved, and they want to be adored, and they want to be liked. And, you know, the only way sometimes people think they can get there is by their physical outside. So I understand the obsession around the physical being. However, we are more than just a physical being. We are a spiritual being. We are, right? We have emotions, we have feelings, all the things. And so for me, yoga helped to center me. It was a practice because I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. So bipolar disorder is the mood swings and the ups and the downs, and right, trying to find like, okay, how do I get balance, right? Like, how do I ride the waves, the ups and the downs, and how do I remain balanced? And yoga really helped me to kind of like center myself, get connected with myself, also build strength and all those physical things, but on emotional level, it helped me to stay balanced and find balance.
Okay.
Yeah.
When we talk about like what's a life worth living, and we talk about these things about like pursuing things that make you happy. So when you were in this career and you're making this much money, what exactly about that lifestyle made you unhappy?
Oh, good question. Because of the work that I was doing every day, I wasn't connected to it. I think that, you know, it's so important to be able to wake up and feel like you're making a difference. Or feel like you're using your God-given gifts in order to help change the world, right? And so I think that a lot of times we're kind of told like how we should think, how we should feel, what we should do by like what we see on TV, by like, you know, culture, by our parents, by our families. But what's really important is kind of you saying to yourself like, yo, I have this gift and I want to use it. And I was just so fortunate to figure out how I was going to use the gift in order to help to make money so that I can, you know, take care of myself and grow my business. But I think for me, it was just I didn't have a connection to what I was doing every day. I was making wealthy people wealthier. I just didn't feel like I was making any kind of any real impact, you know? And I think life is about for me, it's about living out my truest purpose. And that is, you know, spreading joy. Really, ultimately, it's spreading joy. But the way in which I do it is through Purespark.
Could I ask you a question too? If you didn't go through, like, say, this situation where, like, you were miserable and then you had this attempt or that episode, and now, now you're doing this work. If you didn't have those experiences, do you think that you would know what your life work was? I
don't think so. No. I mean, I think we're all born, like all of us, everybody is born with like your purpose, and then going through life, you get clouded and you get confused and all that other stuff. There's all this confusion and you're like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing here. And I think that throughout my life, God or the universe was always like, yo, this is not it. I'm trying to tell you, this ain't it. This ain't it. And he had to like literally knock me upside my head. You know what I mean? For me to be
exactly.
like, yo, this is not it. I've been trying to tell you, you're not listening. This is your wake up call. This is your final call. This ain't what you're supposed to be doing.
And for Purespark, are you guys doing like, is it like group meetings? Like, what does it look like when you join Purespark? What does that look like?
So the people that actually join our website, our wellness directory, are actually wellness practitioners. So if you go on the website, you click on directory, and you'll see about maybe 16 people so far. We're hoping to grow it bigger, that are listed, that pay to be listed on our website. So they're therapists, they're yoga teachers, they're meditation guides, and they're all Black, you know. And so that's what they see. But as somebody like in the community that goes on there, obviously you'll see that too. You'll see the wellness directory. And then you'll also see the other things that I mentioned a little bit earlier. But as for events, when the pandemic happened, we would have virtual groups that were free. Anybody could come in, and we talk about mental health. We talk about what's the difference between a life coach and a therapist, because some people thought they were the same thing.
What is the difference?
Yeah, well, one is licensed and one is not. But yeah. And one helps you kind of look back at your past, and one is therapy is like looking at your past and your past traumas to understand like how they're affecting you today. And then a life coach is kind of looking at your goals and what you want to do in the future and helping you get there. So one is about the past, one is about the future. Some people have both, a life coach and a therapist, and some therapists, you know, are also life coaches.
They be dabbling.
Yeah, they be kind of dipping and dabbling. Yeah, I'm like, okay. What lane are you in? But I think whatever, it's you know, up to you, and depends on where you are in your journey to determine kind of what you need at that point. Maybe at one point in your life you need a therapist. Maybe at another point in your life you need to talk to a life coach. Maybe at one point you need both. Who knows?
And so you're still doing virtual sessions with like groups of people?
No, so we stopped the virtual sessions. So the events that we have coming up next year is we have a walking group that happens in Milton, Blue Hills Reservation, where we just take people out in nature, because I believe that nature's super healing. Just being out in the woods, looking at the trees, breathing in the fresh air. Like, this is what our ancestors did, getting back to our roots, getting out of all this technology, the lights, and just reconnecting with yourself. I think like a lot of the answers are in our DNA. If we could just reconnect with ourselves and shut everything else out, we can get to some peace. So walks, we do the walks, and they're free. You know, we're always looking for sponsors. So if there's anybody who wants to sponsor, you know. And then we have a lot of events kind of geared towards practitioners. So if you're a wellness provider, we have events trying to kind of get all the Black wellness providers in the space so that they can talk, they can connect, they can network. We also are having, oh shoot, I don't even know what I did with the flyer. It's like over there somewhere. It's in my bag.
You have a physical copy?
I have a physical copy of the flyer, yeah. Okay. We're doing a Black Love event for the lovers.
Sounds like something that
you know what I'm saying?
If
you know, forgot to get your girl or your guy a gift for Valentine's Day, it's not too late. You guys can still do something. When is the date? I think it's February 25th. We'll be at Emerald City Plant Shop.
What is it called? It's, sorry, baby, I messed up.
No, it's not.
I like that.
But it's all about healing in the power of touch, right? And so, well, it's not freaky. It's more of like being trained. Yeah, I'm sure. Hey, why not? It's like being trained on on how to massage your partner. Okay. You know what I mean?
Like
because
intimacy.
Yeah, intimacy, being close and being in touch. And it's also like, you know, giving your partner and you training so that you don't have to spend the money to go necessarily see a massage therapist. Be like, baby, I went to that training. Let's go. I got you. You know what I mean? So that's coming up on February 25th. So we're super excited about
do they
that.
bring your own oil, or do they provide the oil?
I don't know if we'll be using oil. I think it's more of like techniques. It's like techniques. It's like techniques. It's gonna be like techniques on like, you know, where the trigger points might be, and like, you know, and when you go home, you'll probably have oil and you can try it at home. Okay. Yeah.
I think I might bring the oil with me though. Just
Yo, my girlfriend's coming too.
That's fine. Hey, we're not gonna turn you away. We're not gonna turn you away. Do it.
Well, the merrier.
Yeah, absolutely. We're here for it.
When we're talking about like going into your story, like how do we recognize when we're having like mental health, like, or mental wellness issues?
Yeah.
Like, how do you recognize the signs?
Well, I think most of us know ourselves at a baseline, right? Like, you know how you feel when you're just being, right? And sometimes I think a couple of things that can happen. One, a friend of yours, a family member of yours might be like, yo, you good? Right? Because sometimes it's the ones around us that hold a mirror to us and be like, yo, you've been tripping for the past week, right? Or if you have enough self-awareness, which some people do, some people don't, you can identify it in yourself. For me, I wasn't eating as much. My appetite went down. Like, it was even difficult for me to like drink a smoothie. Like, I could hardly, like, so your appetite changes. So either you like really have a decrease in your appetite or like a super increase in appetite, or your sleep changes where you're like, you're not sleeping as much, or you're sleeping a lot more than you normally do. Right. Also, like, how much time you're spending with like your friends and loved ones. A lot of times if you're experiencing depression, you kind of, you know, go inward, retreat inward, and, you know, you don't spend any time with your friends or family. One of the things that I was like, whoa, this is weird. I thought I had Alzheimer's. Okay. Like, my memory was gone. I would walk from one room to another room and be like, wait, how did I get here?
Yeah, that happened.
Yeah. So that's a sign. Yeah. That's a sign, right? When you're like, it's called disassociation.
Yeah. That, because I'm in I go to Lincoln Tech to be a medical assistant. They teach us about, you know, like different things that people go through who have depression, you know, withdrawn. You know, you're not really socializing with everybody. Sometimes you get triggered, you know, easily, and that's what I went through, because I moved to Florida. You know, I moved around a lot, always lost a lot of friends. So you can imagine, you know, me growing into to start having, you know, testosterone, not, you know, finding love, not being able to like even, you know, being around like a lot of like people who are non-black, you feel like you don't belong.
Of course. And belonging is so important. You know, if we think about like back in the day, like the tribal days, if you didn't have a tribe, that meant that you were exposed to danger. Like if a saber-toothed tiger was out there, if you had your tribe, y'all can kind of band together and figure out, okay, how we're going to attack this, right? But if you didn't have belonging, you didn't belong to a certain tribe or a group, you're out there on your own. So belonging really is like within us, like for survival purposes. And if you don't feel like you belong, that can definitely trigger you know, mental health.
Yeah, exactly.
And, issues.
Over time, like I realized, now I find my belonging. You know, and this is here.
Good.
But before it was really hard. You know, because you as a youngin, you felt like they say the world is your oyster, but I felt like I didn't have any place to thrive. You know what I'm saying? So like, but so what I wanted to ask, so what were one of the things that helped you thrive when you were going through, your periods of depression?
Well, that was one of the biggest periods of depression. And the thing that saved me, honestly, was my family. Like, if I did not have my family, and in my family, I have, medical professionals like a doctor, a nurse, 3 therapists, right? So, like, they know and understand mental health beyond, the person walking down the street. They understand depression. They understand anxiety. So because they had that education, they knew what to do when I started not sounding like myself, right? They're like, yo, Nieisha doesn't sound right. We got to keep tabs on her. There was like, 2 weeks before I had my attempt, it was like family members were calling me every day, just like, hey, how you doing? Da-da-da, all this other stuff. And then when they tried to call to connect with me, it was the day that I attempted. The next day, my sister and my cousin were at my door in DC, and they lived up here, So my family really, I'm blessed to have family like them. I honestly don't know where I would be if I didn't have family like them. But just, having some kind of support is super important. We need it. We can't do this life alone.
Yeah, very important.
I'm hoping that's what like Purespark does if you're trying to create community, because I don't think that that's probably not the norm of like everyone having that the family members that maybe support them. Right. And I think sometimes when you deal with people, especially like our generation, when it comes to like people who deal with like depression, sometimes if you try to address it with them, it could push them away. But sometimes if you ignore it, you can possibly like encourage them, or not encourage them, but like they'll kind of like, if you ignore it, they'll keep going down the path that they're going. You know what I mean? So you're not addressing the problem. So I think that's a weird.
Well, the thing about it is that like, we only have control over ourselves. Like nobody has control over us, right? And I've lost family members to suicide, and I know that the family members that were really close to them probably thought like, "Dang, what could I have done?" Right? Yeah. And the thing about it is that like people are gonna do what they want to do. You know what I mean? And if they're suffering, they're gonna do what they need to do to relieve themselves from suffering. And I think that the only thing is, for me, right, when I think about my journey and I think about my family members that are struggling mentally, yes, I would love for them to all come to yoga class with me. I want them to all go to therapy. I want them to all eat a certain way. I want that for all of them. But at a certain point, I have to realize that, again, I only have control over me. So if I am living the way that I'm living, maybe I can be an inspiration to them, and maybe they see that I'm doing these things, and they see that I'm happy, and they see that I have dope energy and a dope vibe and all this stuff, and be like, hey, wait, what are you doing again? What's about that yoga? What time the class start? You know what I mean? Like, how can I go on a walk with you? And it's like, girl, come on, let's go. It's here. Nature's free. We don't got to pay. Yeah, that's true. You don't got to pay to go outside.
So we talked about...
Not yet, at least. Thank God.
That is true.
Thank God.
It'll happen eventually.
You know what I'm saying?
Capitalism will take it.
Exactly.
Don't put it in the atmosphere, please.
But we're talking about recognizing these signs in ourselves about like how depression goes. But if you have a loved one or a friend or a family member or a significant other, and you suspect them of going through depression, how do you maybe go about talking to them, or should you even talk to them, or how do you go about showing that you care?
I say yes. Definitely talk to them. Definitely call it out. Reach out. I mean, I'm blessed because I did have friends that, was like, hey, let's do dinner, let's meet up, and actually wanted to check in. And I think we don't do that enough, especially in this generation. It's just like... relationships are interesting. Like, people text, they don't pick up the phone and call, they don't really come and visit. Like, it's just it's a connected but also very disconnected generation. Yeah. And
I do think though, like, your family sent you a wellness check, and that was very good for you. But I think if I sent somebody a wellness check, And even if he was going through it or he wasn't going through it, he'd be like, nigga, did you just send the police to my house?
Right. Oh.
You know, and he'd be like, he was like, bro,
right.
I ain't fucking talking to you no more.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. And that could definitely backfire. There's been stories that I heard where a woman got a wellness check, I think at work. They came to her job. Mm-hmm. So like she had talked to a friend the night before, and this woman's not white. I think she was Asian. And she had talked to her friends the night before about like how she was feeling, just wanting to vent. Mm-hmm. Not to say that she's actually going to do anything, but she just wanted to vent. And I guess her friend was concerned. And so the next day she's at work and the police come. Can you imagine being at work and the police come talking about they doing a wellness? You know what I'm saying? And so she had to like go with them. Because it was like, I guess like a state mandated thing, like you have to leave. But think about the embarrassment, right? Yeah. Of like, oh my God, I'm freaking at work. My coworkers are seeing me get taken out of here into an ambulance. Yeah. Now everyone knows your problems. Yes. Exactly. You know, so it could definitely backfire. But in my situation, I think that my family knew that I was so far gone, and that was really the only option at the time. You know, I think that they had exhausted all other options, and they were concerned about my life. You know, and so they did the right thing. But I definitely could see where, you know, it could definitely turn a little differently, especially with the relations that we have in America with Black folks and the cops. And yeah, I don't think that the cops are necessarily the best people to come sometimes, because it can be triggering for people. Yeah, especially Black folks.
Yeah, especially Black folks. You know, but I feel like you know, I feel like there should be legislation that should be, you know, changed about, instead of sending the cops, you should send, you know, paramedics, people, you know, therapists or
absolutely,
you know, wellness providers.
Absolutely. I think
that must be the cops right there.
Oh, is that the cops? I didn't come to do a wellness check. I'm good, y'all. I'm better now. I'm better. Lord, I hope they don't take me back to the hospital, because that was a trip. Are we talking about the hospital?
Oh, wait, pause. No, let's talk about the hospital. Man. Wait. What's so happening?
I actually had to go to the hospital, and it was like, I've never been to jail before, but I imagine this is probably the closest thing to jail that I've ever.
You're in like confinement?
Yeah. Well, no, I wasn't confined. I was you know, I was compliant. You know, I was not, you know, trying to fight anybody or hurt anybody, because no, absolutely not. I wasn't trying to get beat up in there. But it you know, it's a place you don't want to go. It's not a place you think about when you think about healing, right? There's no plants. There's like, you're on lockdown 24/7. You can have visitors, but only during a certain time. You have to eat their nasty food. You know, the hospital that I was in, it was like white walls, very cold, you know, not cold in the sense of temperature, but cold just like, you know, like just like you didn't feel like people really cared. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, okay, here, take these meds. All right. You know, go to this group. It was not very therapeutic at all. Not a place I'd ever want to go again. Yeah.
Does, now, when you go to like a mental hospital or stuff like that, what does that kind of do to like maybe your yeah, the way that you self-think, like, no, also like the way that like,
it's actually, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, because I feel like a lot of people feel like oh, I've been committed to like, you know, now they feel like really self-conscious, or now that really hurts their mental ability to like feel like they can be mentally strong because they've been committed to like
that compounded feeling. And being in a psych ward, I think, could definitely get you to thinking, oh, I'm a failure, all of these different things. But I've been into psych wards a couple of times, so I have pretty good experience. The first time I was in there with like people from Harvard, and I was like, wait, yeah, exactly. So that made me kind of switch my thinking to be like, oh, like we all go through it. No matter your socioeconomic background, no matter your race, your sexuality, your gender, like, we all go through it. There were like moms in there that were suffering from postpartum depression. I mean, like, you see all kinds of people in there. And then there was a time that I was in there where I met the funniest. I mean, these people were hilarious. I don't know, some cases I don't think they were trying to be funny, but I was like, somebody needs to do a show about being in the psych ward, because some of the stuff, this dude escaped the psych ward. They could not find him. And then he came back and he was just talking about like his journey and how he like escaped. And how he went to his brother's. Yo, I was dying. I was like, yo, this is hilarious.
Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? It was just definitely an interesting experience. One that I never want to experience ever again. But yeah, I think you do, of course, feel some kind of shame. Why? Because the stigma is so real. Like, think about the movies that talk about psych wards, you know, One Floor Over the Cuckoo's Nest, right? And like, okay, you are bat crazy. Bat
shit crazy. I got you. I know you can't swear. I'll swear for you.
If you're in one of these places when really you could just be going through a really tough situation. And because of that situation, whether it's a death in the family, a breakup, or, you know, you're stressed out, it's causing you to react in this way. And we have to remind ourselves that we're human.
Yeah.
We're not machines. And if we're dealing with something mentally, it's not a jab at like how strong we are or whatever. It's just like, we have to give ourselves the compassion, you know, and say like, yo, I'm really sad or I'm really angry. Experience that feeling, process it, and you'll get through it eventually, right? But it's when we don't take care of our emotions, like I did, bottle them up. Oh, I don't care about that. That doesn't bother me. I don't care. Da, 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 da. And then all of a sudden, boom.
That's what
you're in a psych ward.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, maybe that's what you're not supposed to do.
Sorry, no.
But I was gonna say, do you think these psych wards like even like have the tools that like I would say that even help you out in general? Like when you get committed to a psych ward, you know, are they doing their justice to help you out, to actually help your problems out, to see what the actual issue is?
Well, I don't think they can in that short amount of time. So normally a psych ward visit, you know, I think averages maybe to about like 2 weeks or so. So their job is to stabilize you, right? So a lot of times, 9 times out of 10, the people that are in a psych ward, I've met a lot of people that have attempted suicide, right? Or, you know, they're trying to change their medication and get adjusted to the new medication, and they want to be in a safe, sterile environment. It's like a transitional period in time. Okay. Yeah. So it was just like for me to be able to stay safe, I needed to go there. And then the step down after you get out of the psych ward was like group therapy. And then after group therapy, it was like one-on-one therapy. And that's when you really get into like the childhood traumas and understanding like, why do I think this way? Or what are my triggers? And like, why do certain things trigger me? And like, why do I have these certain behaviors? That's when you can really get really deep. But in a psych ward, it's just you're trying to stay safe, and they're trying to just kind of get you to baseline so that you can start doing some therapy.
I think group and individual therapy are like super important too, especially when you're going through that. Like group therapy, you're around people that, you know, they're just as flawed as you. You know,
we're all flawed.
You know, some people could judge you, but like it's really kind of like a no judgment zone. And then you're able to go from that to like an individual therapist where it's like, then you said you get able to dive into those things. What's your experience with like, or because you also did with Purespark like group therapy and group things.
Well,
like
we can't call it group therapy because I'm not a therapist.
Gotcha.
But we called it peer support because I'm a peer, right? So I know what you're going through, or I've dealt with, a mental health diagnosis and all this stuff. So I'm a peer kind of I'm with you. I'm side by side with you with this. I'm not looking down at you like, okay, this is what you need to do for your coping mechanisms. And this is, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, hey, I get it.
Yeah.
But what was your question? Sorry.
No, I was just saying, like, what's your experience with providing that, like, that peer?
Well, I'll tell you my experience with being in group therapy, and then I'll tell you a little bit about our peer support groups that we used to host. So, group therapy was definitely interesting, right? Because it helped to remove some of the shame that I think a lot of us carry, the shame of like dealing with, okay, I was depressed, or okay, I had this suicide attempt, or because everybody's talking about everything that they're going through, and you're like, yes, I went through that too, right? I feel very much so connected. And we were talking a little bit about belonging, but also connectedness, right? Is super important for our human experience. I think that connectedness is the thing that's gonna heal us and help us along this way. So really being in those group therapy sessions really helped to make me feel like, okay, I am not as unique as I thought I was in my experience. Because sometimes when you're depressed, you feel like when you're experiencing depression, because the person, you're not depressed, you're experiencing depression. Sometimes when you're experiencing depression, you feel like you're the only person
that knows how you feel,
that ever in the history of mankind experience. And then when you go in there, everybody's like, yeah, I've been depressed.
Join the club.
You know what I mean? Join the club. Welcome. You know what I mean? And so you build that camaraderie, and you can go into the world kind of knowing that, like, it definitely helps to remove the shame. And I think with, our peer support groups was more like an educational space, but also we did try to build some of that camaraderie, because we had people in there just really curious about healing and wellness journeys and just understanding like what's right for them,
Yeah. Can I ask you about, like, do you think the stigma of like mental health has changed like over the years?
Thankfully, yes. Thankfully, I think 2020 really brought us down to our knees and made us beg for mercy.
Shout out to COVID.
Shout outs to COVID. Oh my God, that little piece of crap came for me 2 weeks ago. Oh, I hated it. I was like, I can't go outside and hug people. This is horrible. But it also woke us up in a lot of different ways, especially the events that followed. But I think that a lot of people started talking about mental health because we were all just really struggling with our mental health, especially those extroverts. I don't know how many people are extroverts, but
I don't believe in those.
You don't believe in extroverts?
No.
Okay.
Oh, no, I don't believe in introverts. Sorry.
You don't believe in introverts?
Yeah, but you can, sorry.
Oh, okay. I think the people who were extroverted really struggled because they were no longer able to go and get those connections that they craved. Therefore, a lot of people started dealing with like mental health concerns due to like isolation and stuff like that. But then post that, you start to hear a lot of celebrities start talking about it. Taraji P. Henson, shout out to my Howard sister. She's also a Howard University alum. She really started advocating a lot in Washington, D.C. and talking about it. So I think, pop culture for starting to make it more common in all these emo rappers, you know what I'm saying, that like start talking about like their feelings and their emotions. And I'm like, yes, black men, talk about it. Talk about your feelings.
But even that though, because I mean, a lot of us feel that like a lot of these younger generations were like taking depression, taking like that emo music and like making it trendy. So it really wasn't like actual depression. It was like not cultural appropriation, but you know, it was like
they were like faking it.
Just
Yeah.
faking
They were
it.
faking that they were
Faking the
depressed.
jack.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
those little suckers.
It became trendy. Like being depressed was like trendy. Like, yeah, I hate everything.
man.
I hate myself. It was trendy.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
gosh, man, I want that not to be trendy. Like that's not something you want to fake.
But that's like Gen Z shit.
Yeah, but at the same time, there's a lot of things that are very negative, or that are very negative that people push in a trendy way. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Oh yeah.
I mean, I can nitpick, but it's just how can you be able to combat it? You know, especially if it's, you know, if you see a young person, right, and they're going through some of the things that you went through. You know, when you notice the signs like, oh man, like I got to do something. You know what I'm saying? So it's a matter of like how you can be able to like, you know, like save that person. You know?
Yeah. No, I think music is dope. I think that just like there's toxic music out there, there's also music that is tonic, right? That is, you know, good for us to listen to, and very healing. And the great thing about this generation is that Google is like right at your fingertips, and you can find any and everything you want. You have Spotify and you have Apple Music. Back in my day, you better get one of these records. No, I'm kidding. I'm not that old. I'm not that old. But I'm just saying, a cassette tape.
I had the
cassette tape.
CD-ROMs. Like I had
A CD-ROM.
yeah,
okay. Okay.
Like the little, and also the CD cassette player.
Okay.
I bought 50
Throwback.
cents. Yeah, like real throwback.
I'm not gonna lie. Like I know we're in the age of like information.
Yeah.
Like, everyone, especially like these Gen Z people, should know how to use technology. But I still had niggas ask me questions, and I was like, well, you can just Google it.
Yeah, this is the weirdest thing. But maybe they're trying to connect with you. Sometimes people ask questions because, you know, they want to connect.
It's a form of like human stimulation.
Yeah. Maybe they're challenging you to see how much you know. Who knows? I don't know. I'm making that up.
Or they probably
I don't know who this person is.
Or they probably
True.
nosy. Yeah.
From your experience, when you're dealing with somebody with depression, and it's a friend or it's a family member, right, and they change up, how do you kind of navigate that friendship, that relationship?
That's a hard one because I'm dealing with it right now. Yeah, I'm dealing with a family member that is struggling with seasonal affective disorder. So seasonal affective disorder, also known as SAD, is something that happens around wintertime. And it's, you know, scientists say that researchers say that it's due to the lack of sunlight, you know, because there's not as much sunlight, the days are shorter, that affects our mental health. But also folks are saying that, psychologists are saying that it's because we don't gather a lot in the wintertime. So like the whole connection thing that I was talking about, you kind of don't get those endorphins that kind of get activated because of human connection. But, you know, I just try to do my best to love on them. I'm a big hugger. Like, I love getting hugs. Like, people that know me, they will always see me and they'll be like this. Because they know, they just get ready for the landing. And I think that physical touch, human touch, can be, it can be very healing, right? You know, and just letting them know that you love them and reminding them of who they are, because sometimes what depression does is steals from us all the good memories and we just hyper focus on the negative. So it's like, I'm lazy, I'm stupid, I'm dumb, I'm ugly. And it's like, you know, you have to remind them like, oh, you know, last month or whatever, you did this and that was the most, you know, just reminding people of who they are. Because sometimes if you're in a mental health struggle, you forget all the good things and you just get hyper focused on all the negative things.
And not just that, but also it's just like it's a sensation where you feel like you don't want to infect people with it, because there are times when I was so depressed and I'm like, bro, I don't want to make anybody have the same feeling. So I would just like
Self-isolate?
Yeah, I would just self-isolate. And then people would get mad at me like, yo, like, why didn't you come here? Why didn't you da-da-da-da? And, you know, and it would be hard for me to explain it.
Yeah.
Because if I did say something, then that's when the whole demeanor would change. It would be to like, oh, wait, oh, is everything okay? And it's like,
you don't want that. You don't want that.
People to burden. You kind of want to be able to fight your own battles.
But that's pride and ego, though.
It is.
That's pride and ego.
Ego boy.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That is very true. That's why it's important to always have like people kind of, no matter how much they want to like, even though it hurts them, right? They have to be able to like try and bring you out of that fire.
Yeah, no, I understand. I understand the whole idea of like, I think on a spiritual level, because what you just said just reminds me of the whole idea of like energy, and you don't want to bring the vibe down, right?
Yeah, like intention, you know what I mean?
Right. And or like, I think when I experience depression, and I don't know if this is how you feel, tell me if you think this is the same thing, but like my energy was so low, like just energetically, like it was hard for me to even be in spaces where I had to communicate with people. Like I'd be tired just sitting there. They want me to have a conversation and my brain's like, going through mud.
Yep.
So to even have a conversation with people, just a very regular, it was exhausting.
Yeah.
So a part of me didn't want to go out because like I would have to fake the funk and act like everything's okay. And that just took up so much energy for me to do. By the time I got home, I'm exhausted. And it's like, do I even want to be bothered with that? I might as well just, stay at home.
You just got to reclaim all that time.
Yeah.
And you just lost. And it just makes you even more depressed.
I get it. I get it.
But it's horrible. It's like
it's difficult because I think it's an invisible disease, and it's actually a silent killer. Unfortunately, the CDC just recently brought out some report last week or 2 weeks ago that was very hard for me to read as somebody in this work. Basically, what it suggested is that U.S. as a whole is, suicide rates are declining. But if you just extrapolate Black people, they are now seeing data that shows that suicide rates in Black people, specifically Black men, are on the increase. Black men suicide rates are up 4 times more than Black women.
Yeah, that's
so
4 times.
Yeah, we talked about this before too.
Men commit. They commit to it. Yeah, it's fucked up.
Yeah, so it's Houston. We have a problem. I know people from Houston don't like that, but we have a serious problem here where I think that we need to stop thinking about it as like we are flawed and start thinking about it like the environment that we're in, right? If you think about a plant, think about a plant that's dying, you don't say, oh, that plant is just, right? You think about, okay, well, what environment is that plant in that's not allowing it to thrive, right?
You being in this field, in this line of work, what do you think like the reason is that Black men are committing suicide like 4 times more than the female counterparts?
Oh God, that's a tough one. I think that our Black men are told that they can't cry, that they're not allowed to show emotion, right? I guess somebody always used to say this when he spoke at these events that I would go to, and I'm like, yeah, he's right. When a young girl would fall down and hurt herself, the mom would go over and be like, hey, baby, it's okay. Let me kiss you, boo-boo. You need something like that. And if a young Black child, a Black boy falls down, man up, get up. You know what I mean?
No bitch.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh my God, what are we telling them to do with their emotions? What the hell? So you never learn. You are taught that you are not to feel your emotions. You can display anger, but that's about it, right? Like you can get angry, you can fight. That's a manly thing to do. All the other emotions that every human experiences, you're not allowed to do that because you're a Black man. And so I think that has in turn been extremely harmful because what do you do with those emotions? You don't have a soft landing. Who do you talk to about your emotions? And I love and know many black men, and I'll be like, hey, so, you know, you think maybe if you join this like men's group, and he's like, nah, I don't trust niggas. I'm like, well, damn, where do you go? Where do you go? And it turns out that a lot of them will come to me and you know, because I'm open and I'm not gonna like be like, oh, you're less than because you feel that way. But like, we need more outlets for black men. We don't have enough.
Yeah, I agree with that too, and because well, like I'm thankful that my parents, you know, like they taught me about like, you know, the difference. They taught me about how to be able to like that it's okay. Good. Especially my dad, because he knew, like, even when we was living in Florida, you know, he knew I was depressed. He knew I had anger issues. He would tell me like, yo, it's okay to be, you know, the way you are, but you have to be careful and be cautious, because when you do have an episode, you know, it's all about perception, you know. And people, when they see that, they just see, oh, another black guy, another black boy going crazy. That's nothing, you know. It's like, I'm a human being. Like, I have pain. I have pain just like you.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? But some people don't even take time to even ask. They just assume. But that's just, you know, that's human. Unfortunately, that's human nature in that way, you know. But yeah. What was you gonna say?
No, I was gonna say, on that note, we're gonna take a small break and we'll be right back.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Everything's good?
This guy's ready to do his job.
Huh?
I said this guy is ready to do his job.
He's always ready.
What's it called? Is blowjob is better than no job.
No! You can work with balloons all day, then yeah. You can work balloons, yeah.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Thanksgiving parade?
Yeah.
That's how it is.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's what time it is.
Devil's advocate in the building.
Everything's good? Show and Tell Boston After Dark. We're back with the co-host, most generous, and the special guest, Nieisha Deed. So one of the people in the audience asked if how can you really be in love if you're depressed?
Who asked that question?
Well, his name is Shane, but you know, I'm not giving any names. But what do you think about that question, though?
It's a tricky question. So, one of the things that my therapist asked, they do this like test to see how extreme you're experiencing depression. There's like this checklist that they kind of read through, right? And like one of the questions on the checklist was like, you know, who can you think about that you can live for, right? Like, who's somebody who you can think about and say like, I have to live for this person. You know, this if I die, this person's gonna miss me and they're gonna be sad, and I don't want to make them sad. And when I was at my extreme depression, I couldn't even think about anybody worth me living for. Like, I'm like, I don't even love myself enough. Yeah. How can anybody love me? It was just like hard for me to even fathom anybody even thinking that I was worth loving, right? So for me in that space, because I couldn't even love myself, I didn't have the capacity to even love anybody else. You know what I mean? But I also think that, again, depression's on a spectrum, right? You can be extremely, you know, clinically depressed, suicidal. And then I think you could be experiencing some blue days of light depression, and you can have that capacity to find it in yourself to like love. But I think it depends on where you're at on that spectrum.
But I mean, even going to that question, who are you living for? Is that even a healthy question to ask? Should you be living for other people?
Thank you. I don't think that's a good question to ask. It's one of the questions on the checklist, but I personally don't think we are now, by asking that question, I think that we kind of demote ourselves in a way, right? Saying that like my life isn't worth living just because I'm a human being. It should be enough that I'm human and I'm on this earth that makes me valuable enough to want to live. Why do I need to live for someone else? But I think that that question is a way for us to kind of trigger like, oh, wow, okay.
What are you thankful for?
Thinking about, well, not what you're thankful for, but just thinking about almost like a scare tactic, and not a scare tactic, I don't know how else to phrase it, but thinking about like after you're gone, the pain that you might leave as a way to get you to like stay, you know, and not do what you want to do and end your life. You know what I mean?
So that's more psychological too.
Kind of, yeah.
But it is kind of true that like, because if you're suffering from this and then you maybe want to end it, you're maybe only thinking about yourself and you're not really actually thinking about the what you're leaving behind.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's pain, trauma,
right?
You could traumatize your like your niece, your nephew, some little kid who loved you for a long time, and they're gonna remember that for a whole bunch.
Right.
Is that the right tactic? I don't know.
Right. I don't know. Maybe it's on the checklist for a reason. Maybe it has helped some people. But I think the thing about mental illness and mental health disorders and just humans, just in general, is that we're such complex beings, right? And there is really no formula to say that 1 + 1 = 2 when it comes to like mental health recovery and all that stuff. Like you really don't know how someone's going to react. Your therapist doesn't know what you're sitting there thinking. They have no clue. I think when I first started going to therapy, I thought like the therapist can read my mind, so I'm gonna sit there and just act real cool. They're not gonna know nothing. You know what I mean? But like they can't. They're humans. They're not superhuman. They cannot read your mind. They have no idea what you're thinking. They only know what you tell them, and that's why it's so important to have. To be able to be comfortable with your therapist so that you can really open up and tell them everything so they can actually help you. If you're sitting there lying to them, that's not going to be helpful, right? But what was the question? Sorry, I got distracted.
I was going to ask this other one where it's like, you being in this field and you've kind of like being around a lot of people who've like go through like depression and etc. Who's the least, like when we talk about categories of people, who's the least most receptive to like seeking help for like mental health and wellness?
Oh, I mean,
I say it's niggas.
I don't know. I've never really been keeping a log, per se. Normally people seek us, you know what I'm saying? We don't, like, I am not of the belief of like going to tell people you need therapy, like you need to do this. No, like.
You don't say that to people?
No, I don't tell people that. I don't tell them what they need.
That's fighting words.
Yeah, like, in our culture, right? It is fighting words. Like to be like,
bro, you need therapy.
And but it depends on where. Are you saying it from a place of love? Are you saying, yo, you need therapy? What? Or are you being like, yo, I think like I went to therapy and like, yo, therapy really helped me and like, you know, blah, blah. I think it's all about the delivery and where you're saying it from. If you're joking with if you're like trying to demean someone and put them down, because I've seen that. I see it on social media all the time. Oh, that dude, he need therapy. He got issues. And it's said from a real shady space, you know, instead of from a place of love. It's all about where is the intention. Are you saying it because you love that person? Are you saying it because like you trying to just joke on them and like, you know what I'm saying?
Personally, I feel like how do I feel?
How do you feel?
I'm trying to figure it out. Black women are like, they're very receptive to therapy. They go to it, but black men, the stigma has changed where like they'll be like, all right, yeah, like you go to therapy, that's cool, but they just don't go.
Would you go to therapy?
I would, but
okay,
I actually even like try to like, how do I fucking check into this shit? But then I was like, oh, like I'm googling it, and I was like, this is mad fucking work.
I know,
you know what I mean?
That's yeah. I'm glad you said that, and that's, you know, one of the things that we're working on is trying to create a program to actually match people. So we did it last year, where we just kind of wanted to test it out and see like, okay, if we offered this service, would people want this? And so I remember putting it out on Facebook and I think I might have put it on Instagram. And like 2 days later, it was a Google document, so you can kind of like, you get these notifications of like when the Google document is being, like, people's names are being added or information is being added. And like all of a sudden I see like 50 names being added to the list. And I'm like, did the list get hacked? Like, what happened? And I go back on Facebook and I noticed that, shout out to Spark FM, they had Danielle Johnson, the founder, had reshared it. And then because she reshared it, a lot of people started filling out the form. Ooh. And so by like a couple of months in, we got up to like 120 people that filled out the form. We was like, all right, we got to pause this because I don't got enough hands to sit there and match people. And so we actually spent the time and we were able to match 60 people out of the like 100 to 120. I can't remember the exact number, that filled out the form. But we realized, like what you're saying is that like, people get started, they start to research, and then they're reaching out to therapists, and then sometimes the therapists don't reach back because they're freaking doing so much work and they don't have time to reply back sometimes. And then you're just like, F it, you know, hey, maybe therapy isn't what I should be doing anyway. And so we want to help. Yeah, we want to help with that.
That makes sense. And that's my story. But what do you think is like, what are like black men's most reason for like not seeking out therapy?
Well, I mean, I can speak from my experience because I remember when I was in high school, I was straight up depressed. I was taking 2 different types of medication. I even tried overdosing off of one of it. And it was because when you move and you lose a lot of friends and you have to try and like figure out who you are, it can be troubling. And also like if you don't have people like around you that are pushing you in the right direction, you know, you're just gonna like I felt like I wasn't in my right environment. I didn't understand myself. I didn't start getting out of my cocoon till I started going to youth programs like High Square Task Force. And then I started tapping into like my music side because I used to sing when I was little. And I tapped into that. Okay.
You got a little singing in your spirit. Can you sing something for us? Can you sing something for us?
But yeah, like it helps me with my confidence, and it's even speaking too, because me like also being autistic. Sometimes like I don't know how to express myself the right way like that other people can, but. You know, people would think that it's a disease. It's really not. I thought it was, but my dad, he would always tell me like, yo, you're actual normal person. You're very smart. Don't let nobody else, feel like you're otherwise. And that was one of the things that was holding me back. But therapy, like, it really helped me too, because I felt like I was talking to like a mentor or somebody, just trying to understand me. Like, why am I fucked up right now? You know what I mean?
And you're not.
Yeah, I'm not. But from them, they're in the back of their head, it's like, yeah, this kid got some problems.
Nah, and that's the thing. Like, we be trying to read people's minds. I think that's what gets us in trouble. Like, sometimes, especially when it comes to like confidence, right? And you're sitting in a room, or you're talking, or you're singing, or you're doing something, and you're like, oh, I wonder what that other person is thinking, right? You know what I'm saying? That person probably thinks I'm stupid, or they think I'm ugly, or they think this and they think that, and that can really mess with us, right? And I think sometimes when our confidence gets tainted or decreases, right, then sometimes that can lead to depression and other things, right? So again, how do we work on like building our confidence and building compassion and building self-love? And that's why, again, going back to yoga, it really helped to center me and just bring me back to the little light inside of me that got dimmed but never was blown out. You know what I mean? Going back to like being birthed into this world and knowing like I'm here for a reason. Like, and all of us are. Like, God put us all on this earth for a very specific, important reason, and we all have a job to do. You know what I mean? It's just a matter of us trying to like, you know, figure out and navigate it. And you know, once you find it, it's like you're in your zone. But
can I ask you about, so one of the things that was a reoccurring thing that we talked about was negative self-talk, which is like a big part of depression. Like it's negative self-talk. First, I'm going to ask you, can you define like negative self-talk and describe what that is? Also, too, how do you get past it?
Well, I think in my experience, negative self-talk sounded like you're stupid. Why did you do that? You're ugly. You know, just thinking about all the times when I made a mistake and it all just flooding me so much that I can't make room or space for the positive things. Like, you know, just being so clouded with all of the negative things. And psychologists will say there's a reason why your brain kind of does certain things like that. You know, it's to keep us safe. So like,
safe
in a way, no. In a way that like, all right, man, you might have thought about like a relationship and a time when a friend might have did you dirty, right? And then you start thinking about all the times that someone's did you dirty, right? And so your brain is reminding you of these situations and amplifying them so that you don't spend time with that person anymore, so that you can stay safe emotionally or something to that effect, if that makes any sense. So it amplifies the negative, but then it doesn't amplify the positive experiences that you had with that person. You know what I mean? Because the whole point of life is survival, and how do you stay safe? You know what I mean? So it's not bringing up all those good times. But I think your question about like, how do you start to like think more positively and refocus. I mean, sometimes it might take medication, sometimes it might take therapy, sometimes it might take journaling so that you can write out all your thoughts and emotions and be like, oh wait, actually I did have some good experiences, and actually I graduated from college. I'm smart, damn it. I know how to do math. Like, what the hell? Like, I had a job doing accounting for like these big ass companies, excuse my French. Like, and you're like, oh, you sometimes you have to remind yourself, and there are different exercises that you can do to kind of help you, just like you do exercises to build your muscles, right? You know, there's exercises that you can do to help you to bring up like the positive things and remind yourself about the positive things, because sometimes in society and on Facebook, you know, all that negative stuff can kind of come up, and I'm very conscious about the things that I consume, not just the food that I eat, but also the things that I read and the things that I listen to, because that can affect your mental health as well. We don't think it can, but it plays a big role.
I was gonna say, sometimes you forget like all the good things that you do, and then you just focus on the negatives. And that's where the negative self-talk happens. But
yeah, absolutely. If whatever you focus on is gonna amplify it, right? So if you focus on the negative stuff, that's gonna be amplified, and that's all you're gonna think about. You know what I'm saying? But if you start to focus in, get laser focus in on the positive stuff, even if it's, you know, psychologists will say like, thinking about something that you're the psychologist will say thinking about something that you're grateful for every morning when you wake up. And it's not necessarily the things that you're grateful for, but it's the act of gratitude that just puts you in this state of like nirvana. For the people that know anything about the Buddhist religion, our Buddhist faith, it puts you in that state of like bliss. Like, oh, I'm thankful for breath. Oh, I'm thankful for the fact that I can open my eyes. Oh, I'm thankful that I was able to give that person a hug. Oh, I'm thankful that, you know, I can walk on 2 feet and not experience pain. Oh, I'm thankful for my heart that's beating, you know, the blood that's going through my vessels, right? Like,
but do you feel like social media takes all that away? like for instance, if you have depression, social media would amplify all the negative or all the things that would trigger you, because when you're on social media, whether it's Facebook or Instagram, you're seeing different content that can change your mood. Like you see something that's out of whack, like what? You know, it's changing your mood. It makes you feel like, oh man,
that's why you gotta curate your page, man. Yeah. You gotta curate your page. You gotta follow who you want to follow. This is bad. You know.
Can you talk to me about like holistic what was it, holistic practices? And also like you said like you do maybe yoga? Reiki and acupuncture and etc. But that's like stuff that's like not very like maybe accepted in like, you know, people of color communities.
Right.
And then like, but you've been open-minded to it.
Yeah.
So how do you get people to be more open-minded to those things?
Well, I think, you know, people are going to do what they want to do. I'm more of like a person that likes to introduce people to things and be like, oh, hey, are you experiencing pain there? Like, have you thought about maybe trying acupuncture or something like that? But for me, it was like, I was so desperate to heal, I would do anything. Like, even if you told me to, like, drink some rancid whatever, I'd be like, where is it? Let me get 2 bottles of it because I want to feel better. And so I was just open to just trying anything, you know?
Jameson.
All right, so and people who have depression, right, that's what they're thinking, right? They want to try everything. So can you be able to talk about, like, how drug use can alter, you know, a person with depression?
Yeah. I mean, when we talk about coping mechanisms, and I think there definitely are healthy ones, and then there are ones that can be super harmful. And I think, you know, if I think about what's been plaguing our community and unfortunately, my father was a product of was affected by the crack epidemic, right?
Oh, shit.
And so just thinking about like, all right, as a black man, he's going to work in his profession. He's being treated a certain way, and all he wants is to be respected, and he can't get any respect, and he just wants to feel good. So in order to feel good, he does this thing to help him feel good and to get this high and to get this elated feeling. But the only problem is it's not constant. You got to keep doing it. And every time you do it, it's like, I need more and more and more to feel better and better and better. But when you don't have mental health services and you don't have somebody you can talk to and you don't feel like you can talk to, what are your options, right?
Yeah.
How do you cope? You know what I'm saying? And we always talk about, substance use, but also there's people that cope with eating a lot of food, right? There's also people that cope by buying a lot of clothes, right?
Or
like,
sex.
I mean, or sex. I mean, like, there's so many different ways in which people cope, the mechanisms that I'm talking about are referring to kind of disconnecting from yourself. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to experience this pain right now. So instead of experiencing this pain, I'm going to have sex, or I'm going to overeat, or I'm going to do something else because I just can't deal with the pain. How did I cope? I didn't. I acted like nothing was going on because that's how I saw my people in my life cope. They acted as if they weren't in pain. They were like, nope, that doesn't bother me. I don't care. Whatever. Nope, I don't care what he said. Yeah, knowing daggone well you care, and that's bothering you.
That's what I would do. Yeah. Dude, I mean, you know, especially us,
avoidance. That's how I coped. That was my way of coping. Avoidance.
Especially us as artists, like, you know, like, I mean, I don't know what anyone else's like coping skills is, but I'll be like, all right, well, that bothered me, so I'm just gonna get super faded. I'll probably call one of my niggas drunk and complain about my shit, and then isolate for a bit, and then I'll just like, you know, come back and I'll like pretend nothing happened.
Yeah. Yeah, pretend nothing happened. Just,
pretend nothing happened.
There's a lot of us, right? There's a lot of us out there pretending like nothing ever happened, knowing daggone well we are struggling, and then when something triggers us, we blow up, not necessarily because of that one incident, but because of like all this past stuff that we've just been stuffing in us. And then that thing just exploded. And now we're like in tears and frustrated and experiencing depression, and we cannot handle our emotions because we never figured out how to deal with our emotions. And that was my problem. I did not know how to deal with jealousy, frustration, disappointment. I had no idea. Also, too, I was the youngest of 3 children. So I think also being in that birth order also affected me in a way that I'm so used to getting what I wanted. You know what I'm saying? Wait. So birth order, I think, definitely affected how I saw the world.
How do you deal with jealousy?
I think now it's about being grateful for what I have, because I think jealousy is when you...
Wait, what were you jealous of, if that's not too invasive?
I don't know, just people having more of anything.
So self-entitlement.
Self-entitlement?
I guess.
So harsh.
Yeah, I guess, in a way. Yeah. A little bit of narcissism, maybe. I don't know.
That comes with it. It comes with the territory. So.
Who knows? But I think, I honestly think, I'm of the belief that we all carry some of these diagnosis within us, just a tad, just a sprinkle.
A little sprinkle.
Just a little sprinkle.
Just a little sprinkle, yeah.
And, it could just be me, but, it helps me to connect with other humans a lot better because I get it. I've experienced all the emotions I think that a human could ever experience in my 40 years of being on this earth. So that means I can connect with somebody when they say they're experiencing anxiety. I can connect with somebody when they say that they're experiencing jealousy. I can connect with somebody who talks about being ashamed, right? Like I can connect with just about any human experience because I've been through it and I've processed it. And I understand it, right? So when I talk about jealousy and thinking about what is the offset to it, like how do you kind of process it, is like thinking about, oh man, I have so much. Like I actually have everything I need. Why do I need to be jealous of anybody? Yeah.
Can you tell us about the next steps for Purespark? Like, what are you guys driving?
Next steps. Trying to take over the world. No. We are just honestly just trying to do our best and navigate all of the barriers that exist to Black people healing and trying to just knock them down. So this year we're really focused on, again, the education piece. And trying to get more people into the mental health and wellness space. So in April, we'll be having a career fair. We're partnering with Boston Public Library and Roxbury to host it. So if you are a junior, senior in high school, or someone who is not sure about what they want to do when they grow up, that's totally fine. We invite people to come learn about the profession, talk to people who are in the profession, kind of get an understanding, because we really do need more Black and brown therapists out there. So that's one thing, really trying to do that, really trying to advocate more when it comes to going to the State House, City of Boston, for funding to help with these programs that we're doing and other programs that are around focusing on Black mental health. And, hosting our little nature walks and getting people to just breathe in, breathe out.
Yes.
Yeah.
For me, I would love it if Purespark would bring back and do it a little more of the the peer-to-peer.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's very necessary. Especially I think like people in our age, like we need community, we need to do that. And then you've done it before, and I think that's something that we definitely need.
Okay. Well, y'all want to do it here? We can do it
Let's
here.
Do it.
Let's do it.
Do a little peer support
Come
here.
meet the family.
Oh yeah. Is there anything else that you would like to make sure that people know about you, about your Purespark?
Check us out on the website, www.yourpurespark.com. We're also on Instagram at YourPureSpark. We're on Facebook, Purespark. We're on Twitter, Purespark. We're on LinkedIn, Purespark. And shout us out and let us know what you want to see. I love the feedback. That helps us to be able to create better programming. And And, reach out if you have any questions about mental health. I'm an open book. I don't mind sharing my own personal journey. And, yeah.
Hell yeah. It's been a pleasure. Nieisha Deed. She's been amazing. We've been talking about mental health and everything that comes with that. And that's a wrap. Show and tell after dark.
Thank you.